All right, so WNBA owners have officially left. The WNBA and players text message left on red. That's right. The players DM the owners on Instagram, and the message now says "seen" with no response. This is what happens when this is the definition of F around and find out. And now the players are finding out. And now it seems like they're trying to play victim and win over public perception once again. We got to break this down. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, and hype the video. Let's get right into things.
WNBA owners have officially stepped away. The players' last attempt, a direct Instagram message to ownership, now shows only one thing: seen, no response. That silence says everything. Talks didn't just stall, they ended. This marks a major shift in who holds the power. The owners appear finished with the back and forth, leaving the players' union to deal with the fallout of its hardline stance. This is the breaking point, and the impact will be felt throughout the entire league.
Notification and hype the video. Let's get right into things. The clown show continues. The WNBA owners have had enough. Quite frankly, it's that simple. They've had enough of the back and forth. They did not even want to do a extension up to January 9th, and they stopped responding to these players more than 2 weeks ago. And Breanna Stewart made it seem like the conversation was still going on and all of this stuff. Now the players are talking about they want to negotiate in good faith. Why are they saying that? Because the owners do not feel that the players have been negotiating in good faith. Let's get into this article right here on ESPN. WNBA CBA Q&A.
For weeks, the owners said nothing, cutting off communication more than 2 weeks before the January 9th deadline. Even so, Breanna Stewart suggested talks were still happening, creating the impression that progress was being made. That wasn't the reality. The owners had already checked out, worn down by endless negotiations. Their silence wasn't accidental or strategic posturing. It was a clear signal they were getting ready to make a final decision, while the players continued forward without realizing there was no one on the other side anymore.
The players are talking about they want to negotiate in good faith. Why are they saying that? Because the owners do not feel that the players have been negotiating in good faith. Let's get into this article right here on ESPN. WNBA CBA Q&A. Nneka Ogwumike, Nafisa Collier on standstill. Now you're about to listen to some ladies playing victim. That's what you are about to hear all throughout this. And then in this article where the interviewer asked them about what Caitlin Clark had to say about the compromise, they try to sweep it under the rug and act like it did not happen because they do not want to compromise on anything. They're not really trying to have a seat.
Now the players are scrambling, suddenly saying they want to negotiate in good faith. That change in tone only came after the owners fully walked away, making it look more like panic than progress. It also shines a light on the union's earlier approach, where good faith didn't seem to be the priority. After months of feeling ignored and disrespected, the owners clearly saw this move as too little, too late. Not a sincere shift, but a last-minute tactic.
About the compromise, they try to sweep it under the rug and act like it did not happen because they do not want to compromise on anything. They're not really trying to have a season, man. They got Unrivaled. They got Project B. These are complete conflicts of interest. I don't even know how they are sitting in the leadership seats at this point. Complete conflict of interest with all the stuff they have going on. Let's get right to it. It says on the eve of negotiating deadline for WNBA CBA collective bargaining agreement, WNBPA president and vice president Nafisa Collier told ESPN they are proud of the union's solidarity and vowed to keep working for a transfer.
An ESPN article breaking down the WNBA CBA Q&A with union leaders Nneka Ogwumike and Nafisa Collier highlights a union strategy built around playing the victim. The entire interview carries a tone of frustration and disappointment, framing the players as the ones who've been wronged. The goal is clear: win public sympathy. But that message runs headfirst into the owner's quiet but firm stance. While the union speaks through carefully chosen words, the owners are responding with actions, and those actions are saying far more than any statement ever could.
Thoughtful and reasonable proposals. You guys have asked for more than double of everything that they're talking about. 30% is league, 30% revenue, not happening. $10.5 million cap, not happening. So, whatever. Agumake said, Fee's right. I'm proud of how professional and patient we've been. What do you mean professional? Y'all was taking shots at the WNBA owners on Instagram. That wasn't professional. What are you talking about? Y'all been trying to win people over in public perception throughout the entire negotiation. What are you talking about? You guys been playing victim the whole time. Like, oh, man. She said the progress that we've seen.
A serious conflict of interest hangs over union leadership. Nneka Ogwumike and Nafisa Collier are meant to represent all players, yet they're also running their own business projects, including Unrivaled and Project B. That raises a fair question. Can they truly negotiate in everyone's best interest when their personal financial stakes may not align with the league as a whole? This dual role casts doubt on their ability to lead without bias and weakens the union's credibility at the bargaining table.
Negotiations it's been very upsetting and disappointing. Okay, victim now. You're upset and you're disappointed. The tone of the negotiations coming from the league is very dismissive, very disrespectful, you know. They've said over and over again that the players don't understand the business, and for them to put a blanket statement like that over players who clearly we do. We are very smart, educated women. We know what we're asking for. We know that it's not too much like they're saying. So that's been very disappointing to have that be the tone of conversations when we are in such a transformational era. Like Nneka said, we're for both sides be benefiting and reaping the benefits of that.
With the WNBA CBA expiring at midnight, the league is entering a holding pattern. On paper, talks could still continue, but the outlook is much darker. A work stoppage or a lockout is now a real possibility, even though players wouldn't immediately lose their benefits. This gray area heavily favors the owners. It gives them the power to hit pause on the season and force the union to finally face the consequences of the stalemate.
Said the CBA y'all are offering are going to put them $700 million in the hole. They're not taking that deal. So I don't know what, I don't get. I want to get to, okay. Hold on one second. Okay, Agumake said I feel like there's a bit of by-the-book, antiquated approach to negotiations that is being used on the league side, and it foils drastically in comparison to what we are as a league. It said there's been a lot of talk and speculation about around the relationship between Kathy and the players. I really do feel like
Collier said she's frustrated that negotiations haven't gone further after 15 months. She stressed that the players are united, won't accept a bad deal, are waiting on the league to respond to what they believe are fair and well-considered proposals. While this message shows strong player solidarity, it also underscores just how far apart the two sides are on what a fair agreement actually looks like.
That we want to ensure that we get conversations that lead to something that's transformational in this new agreement. But y'all have taken shots at Kathy at every turn you get. Nafisa Collier just took shots at Kathy 2 days ago. So, you know, I don't get how you're not taking shots. I want to get to this part, the Caitlin Clark part, man, because it's just they are at this point they are playing victim, and I just got to be completely honest with you. That's what's happening right now, man. There's so much that's in this article, man. You have to take a look at this article. Here it is: ESPN at USA Basketball Camp last month. Caitlin Clark talked about
what the union calls thoughtful and reasonable. The owners see very differently. The players are asking for more than double the current pay structure, including a 30% share of league revenue and a $5 million salary cap. From the owner's standpoint, those numbers are wildly unrealistic and financially impossible. That basic disagreement over money is the real reason talks have collapsed, and it shows just how far apart the two sides are. Nneka Ogwumike has described the union's approach as professional and patient, but that claim doesn't fully hold up. Throughout negotiations, players publicly criticized owners on Instagram. That kind of public pressure may have been aimed at winning fan support, but it hurt the process by alienating the very people they needed to bargain with. Union leaders have leaned heavily into a victim narrative, calling the league dismissive and disrespectful. They argue that players are smart, educated, and fully understand the business, pushing back on any suggestion otherwise. But this emotional framing shifts attention away from the core issue, the financial demands themselves. The owners aren't being condescending. They're rejecting a deal they believe would lose massive amounts of money. At the center of the dispute is the union's push for a new salary system tied directly to revenue sharing. Aya Wilson has said she's seen no real effort from the league to meet them halfway on this point. From the owner's view, though, there is no workable middle ground if the numbers don't add up. The league's position is blunt. According to ownership, the proposed CBA would put the WNBA roughly $700 million in the red. That projection is the hard stop. No matter how united the players are or how strongly they argue their case, the owners are not going to sign an agreement that guarantees losses on that scale. The growing financial gap is the real reason owners stopped negotiating. Nneka Ogwumike criticized the league's approach as outdated and overly rigid, arguing it doesn't match the modern energy of the WNBA. That framing paints owners as stuck in the past, but brushing off their financial concerns ignores the serious business risks tied to the union's demands. Doing so only deepens the divide. Union leaders also try to downplay reports of tension with Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, saying the issue was never personal. That claim clashes with their long record of publicly criticizing her. The attempt to separate emotions from the situation feels forced and looks more like an effort to manage public perception. One of the clearest moments came when Caitlin Clark spoke at a USA basketball camp. She stressed that progress would only come if both sides were willing to compromise. It was a straightforward call for balance. Union leaders largely ignored her message, choosing not to engage with what it meant for their position. When asked directly about Clark's comments, Nafisa Collier responded vaguely, saying the union had already been respectful, realistic, and flexible, and that the league wasn't meeting them halfway. That answer avoided Clark's main point, that compromise requires movement from both sides, and instead placed all responsibility on the owners. Ogwumike echoed the same view, saying the players had been more than reasonable and expressing disappointment that the league didn't recognize what she described as shared wins for both sides. The union's continued focus on a victim narrative ignored the heart of Caitlin Clark's message about compromise, reinforcing their refusal to reconsider any demands. When pressed for specifics, the union gave only vague answers, talking about adjusting revenue shares in creative ways. Yet their core demand for a 30% cut remains unchanged. This shows a willingness to appear flexible without actually moving on the most financially damaging requests, a tactic the owners clearly see through. Throughout negotiations, the union has relied heavily on public perception, pushing for massive costs like housing, cars, and huge revenue shares, despite the projected $700 million loss. That approach has failed. Owners have called their bluff, proving that public sympathy cannot replace realistic financial negotiation. The owners have now reached their limit. Their silence, the seen, no response message, and refusal to engage further show a total shutdown. Caitlin Clark's call for give and take was ignored by union leadership, leaving the league at a crossroads. The WNBA now faces an uncertain future, with the possibility of owners relying on rookies and replacement players, while many veteran stars and the struggling union are left on the sidelines.